What's up, everybody? This is Jeff Montana, the homeboy house buyer. I'm in the podcast suite studio, Dallas. I'm here with my special guest, Jerry Puckett. Jerry is the owner of an REI company called New Refined Images. He's the owner of a marketing and consulting group called Market Like a Wholesaler, leveraging Jerry's marketing platform, consulting, and expertise. I landed my first deal within my first 6 months that made me 40 grand with the potential to earn a lot more off of that deal. Needless to say, Jerry, I'm stoked to have you sitting in front of me on the podcast. Welcome to the Ending Sucks.
Thank you. It's really good to be here. It's really. I got to say, that intro piece that you had as I was sitting here listening to, that's probably the best one for a podcast I've heard yet.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just was really digging it. You know,
nice.
The message. I didn't have a chance to do like any research before I came, so that intro really explained the whole thing to me. I love it.
Yeah, that's one of the things. So that gives me a good segue, actually. Last time that we spoke, I was driving up to the Panhandle, and my dad had just passed away. Mm-hmm. And we had one of our kind of coaching calls where we talk about what we're going to do with the marketing, and you shared your story about your father who had, I guess, passed away earlier this year too. So
that's right.
My condolences on that. But
Thank
you were really you kind of helped put me at peace, to be honest, when I was driving up there in the middle of nowhere and I was thinking about all this stuff. And so I appreciate that.
You bet.
Definitely. So that's kind of what the Ending Sucks is about. That's what it is to me. So it's you get one chance at it. So go live, do what you want to do, live your dream kind of thing. That's where the title came from. And that came about, I wanted to call it Love the Process, the Love the Process podcast. So just being in love with what you're doing right now. Mm-hmm. But I started doing some Google searches and things like that were kind of already out there. So I said, I'm just going to do a complete 180 and I'm going to do something that's just going to be off the wall. And that's what I came up with. So the Ending Sucks is meant to be kind of empowerment in a sense.
I get it. And it's speaking of that, the worst things in life sometimes can have the best impact on you. My father passing sucked.
Yeah.
But I learned so much about the man afterwards, things that I never knew while the family was all together, that gave me a sense of peace and some release. Oh, wow. And so I was able to turn around and pass that on to some others. So it never amazes me. You can go through something just absolutely awful and good can come out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of gives us a good segue again into how you got started in real estate. So I was looking at your bio, and a guy that I had on, we kind of talked about things are either, when a change comes about in your life, it's either because of desperation or a really strong inspiration. Something happens in your life, and he was kind of like, well, those are the two things. And in reading your bio, it looked like your wife was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh, that's right.
And that was kind of what spurred you to get into real estate full time.
Yes, and it wasn't necessarily real estate I was looking for. It's real estate kind of found me.
Okay.
So she was diagnosed. It was stage 3 already.
Oh, wow.
It had been less than a year since her last mammogram, and she went in, had one. Stage 3. I mean, it was fast. Yeah. It was aggressive. And the course of treatment began immediately, and it was rough. And at the time, she had a really nice, cushy corporate job.
Okay.
And I was working in a restaurant.
Okay.
So I had to figure out something I could do from home, so that I could take care. It was either that, or I was going to have to hire somebody to stay in the home with her, because the chemo she was going through would just knock her out.
Yeah.
So I didn't really want anybody else to come, so I needed to find something I could do from home.
Okay.
And just about the only thing that I could find that would pay regularly, we had a friend. It was a friend of hers that she also worked with, who had a very small real estate company. She was just a buy and hold investor looking to get 1 or 2 more doors a year.
Okay.
That's all she was looking for. But she was one of these people who had paid tens of thousands of dollars to go to the boot camps and the courses and the seminars.
Stuff,
yeah. And so the first time, well, I'll come to that in a second. So she hired me basically just to answer her phone.
Okay.
We've talked about needing a call center before and needing somebody to take the calls and field out the. So she had gotten to the point where she didn't want to answer the calls from her own marketing.
Okay.
And her marketing processes she'd picked up from Dan Duran, and that's that's the whole system that I inherited. So I started answering the phone for her. She paid me $10 an hour, and I could do it from home. And she provided me with scripts to use, and told me to stick to the script, and I had to record my calls and have. And man, that was that. I'm not kind of a script.
You were working
kind of guy.
in the restaurant industry. What specifically were you doing in the restaurant industry?
Well, I was a waiter and a bartender.
Okay, so you had kind of already had a knack for people. I mean, to be in the service industry,
Right.
that kind of seems like, I mean, going to doing cold calls it's quite different, but it's still.
I do have a gift for gab.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I've played in several bands throughout my life too, so I don't have any I don't have performance anxiety. I don't have a problem getting out in front of people. But the questions that I was asking, according to the script, didn't seem to fit. I mean, what she really wanted me to do was to qualify these people and build a rapport with them so that they would be willing to take less for their property than it's worth. And it's just something that's hard to get from a cold black and white script, because you need the ability to kind of roll one way or the other.
Right.
So then that kind of played out in the long run. So what would happen would be I'd take these calls, I'd set her appointments. She'd go out on the appointments and would just ruin them.
Okay, so you weren't going with her?
No, not at this point.
Okay.
Not at this point. So she knew all the numbers upside down and backwards, could analyze a deal to within a penny. Boy, she was good at that. And she was good at structuring offers and all this other stuff, but she didn't have any people skills.
Okay.
She was a numbers person.
Yeah.
And so to her, it was like, well, this makes sense and you should do it.
Right.
And that doesn't always work when you're out there with people. So what was happening, she'd go out on these calls and they'd say, well, where's Jerry? I talked to him on the phone for half an hour or 45 minutes, and I was kind of thinking he was coming out here.
Yeah, so you'd already done a good job building rapport, and they were wanting to talk to you, yeah.
And so she invited me to go out on an appointment with her.
Okay.
And the first one I went out on, we landed a contract.
Nice.
So it was just, it didn't seem to be, once I was actually in front of them, it wasn't very hard. You can, when somebody's really distressed, you can see the pain in their eyes. They might mask it on the phone, they might put on their game face, but when you're in front of them and you're in this house that's causing them problems, it's all over their face.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're talking to a person, somebody's real analytical, talking to somebody who is kind of a heart person or going through this situation, and you might kind of butt heads and might actually feel offended.
Exactly. And that's what was happening. These were great leads, good quality leads, and she'd go in there and not be able to close them. So she took me with them. So it wasn't long after that before I was going out on all the calls. So now I'm taking the calls, and I'm going out, and then I started noticing things about her marketing pieces. I'm like, well, you say this, but you're doing this.
Okay.
So
got the wheels
long story short, she put me in charge of the marketing. So now I'm creating the pieces, I'm sending them out, I'm taking the calls, I'm going out on the appointments, I'm negotiating the deal. And then one day this happened. We ended up with 2 fully executed contracts, and she only had enough money to close on one of them.
Okay.
So at this point, the whole concept of wholesaling hadn't ever come up.
Really? What year was this roundabout?
Well, it hadn't come up for her. It was a thing.
Oh, okay. It wasn't a strategy that she was doing.
No.
She was strictly for the buy and hold.
Yeah, she was really into the free and clear cash machine sort of thing. But the as an exit strategy, wholesaling was foreign to her. And at the time, it was just real new to me. I had, along the course of the way, dealing with these people and stuff like that, I had questions, and I did what anybody else would do. I'd get on the computer and I'd Google my question, and 9 times out of 10, the answer would come from this place called Bigger Pockets.
Okay. That's where we met, actually.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And so I started being kind of a regular on Bigger Pockets, and I was picking up all kinds of stuff. So we got these 2 contracts, and she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm obligated to both of them. I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't want to back out. It's going to make me look bad. And I was like, well, just let me wholesale one of them. And she's like, wholesale?
What the heck is that?
What is a wholesale? And I said, well, I've been on this website called Bigger Pockets. He says, Bigger Pockets? That's for newbies and there's gurus and people trying to take your money and that's not for. And I said, no, it's exactly the opposite. It's not. This is anti-guru, and this is real people giving you real information.
I would agree with that for them.
That's, back in the days of, I was one of the original members. Back in the days of the Wild Wild West, that's exactly what it was.
Okay.
If anybody got on there trying to sell themselves or anything like that,
you run them out of town.
Everybody would just run them out of town. Jay Scott was a different person back then. He would, he'd type up a whole page, exposing somebody for the lies they were telling. And so it was a little bit rougher and wilder back then.
That's interesting, yeah.
So I told her about this wholesale thing, and she's like, okay, you wholesale it, and anything you make, we'll split. Okay, cool.
Challenge accepted.
So I called one of my contacts from Bigger Pockets, my first colleague, in fact. He'd been somebody that mentored me a lot, maybe not so much in real estate, but in business.
Okay.
And he didn't want the property, but he said, I know somebody who might. And he gave me a phone number. And I called that person.
There you go.
They wanted the property. So within 24 hours of saying, let's wholesale this thing, I had a buyer. And we made a $10,000 wholesale fee.
A $10,000 wholesale fee, and she was like, "What the heck is wholesaling?" And
right?
I got to give you one of these for that. There's your applause for that deal. You got
right. First one out of the park. So 10 grand. I was addicted.
Yeah, that's gonna light a fire underneath you to go do this.
Right. And the fire got turned up a little higher. So she took me to lunch after the closing.
Okay.
And she wrote me a check for $2,000.
On top of that?
Nope.
No, just for
$2,000.
Okay, cool.
She said, you did such a good job, I'm going to give you a bonus. And I was thinking, oh, well, I'll get 5 plus a bonus.
Sure. You did all the work.
She wrote me a check for $2,000.
Okay.
And I said, you said we'd split this. And she said, I never said that. I must have. Yeah, I must have been drunk. I mean, so here's my lesson. Get everything in writing.
There you go.
Get it all in writing. That was my lesson for the day.
Okay.
So I took the check for $2,000 and I went back out to my car, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I wrote the marketing piece. I sent out the mail. I took the call. I negotiated the deal. I wrote the contract. I found the buyer. I got it all to title. What do I need her for?
Yeah.
So that's at the point where I decided that I was going to go out on my own.
Okay.
And I quickly learned that what I needed her for, that what she had that I didn't have, was a marketing budget. Yeah. I had that $2,000 that she and so I did my best on a shoestring for as long as I could. But a couple of things kind of dovetailed for me. I had no intention of starting a marketing service.
Okay.
That was not my goal.
So were you guys doing a lot of direct mail back then?
Not a lot.
Is that how you were getting the deals with her?
Yes.
Okay.
It was all postcards.
All postcards at that time?
All postcards done through click-to-mail.
Okay.
I would write the copy and send it off to click-to-mail. And it wasn't until later on that I figured out I could do it less expensively if I was doing it at the house, and then only if you're doing it in significant volumes that you can buy all your supplies. But that was still a long way off. 'Cause like I said, I wasn't trying to be a marketer.
Right. You're trying to find your own deals at that point.
I was trying to be a wholesaler. And I got good at it. I got very successful at it. And I had that first colleague I was telling you about who turned me on to my first buyer. He lives up here, but he does a lot of business in Austin.
Okay.
And at the time, this was when Central East Austin was really heating up. That area, it's real close to the Capitol and to the college and to 6th Street where all the music is. And the people were just starting to flip houses over there. They'd take a house, scrape whatever was on the lot, build a duplex, sell each half of the duplex for $500,000, and people were just, it was just cash cow for a while. So that's what he wanted to do, was get in over there. And he said, Jerry, you've done a really good job here where it's busy and competitive. You're making a niche against the big guys, and you're still doing deals. Could you do something like that for me down in Austin?
Okay.
And I thought, okay, Bigger Pockets, pay it forward. I drank that Kool-Aid a long time ago.
Absolutely.
You bet. I'll do it. So by that time, I had switched from postcards to yellow letters.
Okay.
Yellow letters were getting me a much better response rate than the postcards were, and I was starting to produce them on my own. So I did a campaign for him, and within 5 months, he had landed 3 deals, and each of those deals had netted him 6 figures each.
Oh wow!
So now remember, he's not wholesaling; he's doing development.
Yeah, he's
and
developing.
So the payout was bigger.
Sure.
But so what he do? He shot his mouth off. He went back onto Bigger Pockets
and all his homeboys.
He got on Bigger Pockets and wrote a forum post called 6-Figure Income from a Yellow Letter.
There you go.
And my phone started to ring off the hook.
Imagine.
People wanted to on it, but I still wasn't ready really to take that leap. Yeah, and then the last piece of the puzzle.
Thinking about that as a business per se at that time.
No.
Just I'm helping this guy out and it's going pretty good. So
right. Do you have any idea how long it takes to stuff 1,000 letters? Because I was doing it all by hand then. I was printing it, folding it, stuffing it.
Yeah, it's very tedious. Yes.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time. So the thought of doing that for multiple people it just hadn't even crossed my mind. But then the last piece of the puzzle fell into place. That Bigger Pockets had its very first conference ever.
Okay.
And that was the one in Denver in 2010, I think it was. And I really wanted to go. All my friends were going to be there, but I couldn't afford it. I didn't have the money to go. So this colleague that I've been telling you about, he agreed to buy my plane ticket.
Nice.
And then Josh Dorkin at Bigger Pockets gave me my ticket for free.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
So they kind of conspired to get me there. And it was amazing to me. I got there on a Thursday, and somehow I still, to this day, don't know exactly how it happened, but I got invited to the speaker's dinner.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't a speaker. I was...
Sure.
So
totally out of the blue.
Yeah.
Weren't even expecting this at all.
No,
wow.
I had no idea. So there I am walking around in a room. There's Josh. This was before Brandon Turner's time, so he wasn't even in the picture yet. But Josh was there. There's Jay Scott. There's Ryan Weber. There's man.
Yeah, and at this point, these guys are kind of like your
these are
real estate investor heroes.
Yes, my jaw's hitting the floor, and I'm like, oh my god, that's Jay Scott, and he's talking to me.
Did you ask him for an autograph? I'm just kidding.
No, I should have. I should have. Who knew he was going to go on to be such a best-selling author and all the rest? At that time, he was still doing the 1, 2, 3 flip blog. But I mean, he did a wholesaling boot camp with Ryan Weber that was just off the chain.
Yeah.
And Will Barnard was there, and
okay.
it was just as awesome.
You're getting invited to this. Now this isn't like the dinner for the speakers. It's not. You're not actually being drugged on stage to speak, right?
No.
This is after the fact.
This is before the conference began. It was a kind of a meet and greet for the speakers.
So now you're getting to meet and mingle with some of these guys, and you've already had one of your colleagues that you've made a lot of money for, running his mouth about how great your service is. So here you are, and I'm sure everybody's chomping at the bit to, hey, I need to talk to this guy.
Well, at that point, no. These people in this room still didn't know who I was.
Okay.
They were the internet superstars, and I was just I was still a newbie.
Yeah, sure.
As far as anybody else was concerned. But now that I had done a few deals, at that time I'd done maybe a dozen, maybe a few more. So I'd gone from the point of asking questions to answering questions and sharing it out. So I was getting some traction like that. So, but the contrast here is I am the day before, and I'm my mouth's open, and then the next day at the actual conference, I'm walking down a hall between one class and the next, and there's a group of people out in the hall going, oh, "That's Jerry Puckett." It took me totally by surprise.
Yeah, imagine.
And that's Jerry Puckett. That's it. And they started, "Will you mentor me? Will you mentor?" And I'm like, "You must be nuts."
Yeah.
I'm brand new. Said, "No, we need somebody to teach us." So that's when it started. I started thinking, I can't really teach you anything until you're talking to sellers.
Okay.
Everything else you can learn for free on Bigger Pockets. You need to learn to analyze deals and stuff like that. And then also, right about that same time, that's when the MLS dried up.
Yeah.
Investors couldn't get deals there anymore. So I had them all the time asking me, how come you always have product and we don't have product? And I'm like, well, I market like a wholesaler.
Yeah.
That's when it all started to come
Okay.
together for me. These people want me to mentor them. Most of the mentors out there charge you 15 grand
Oh, yeah.
up front and give you a bunch of regurgitated information you could get from anywhere else.
Sure.
So I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to provide the marketing. I'm only going to charge for the marketing, and then I'll walk you through your deals.
Okay.
And so that's how my concept began, and
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've just rolled with it.
So you're actually, when you say walk them through the deal, so like now you're being thrust into this deal where you're going to start marketing and you're doing wholesaling yourself now. Is this full time that you're doing wholesaling?
Yes.
Okay, so you're doing your own wholesaling, so you've got that going on. Now you're being asked to market for other people, and then so we fast forward, and this thing is taking off for you.
Yes. Well, much as the marketing side of the business grew like 300% a year for 6 years.
What would you say was the biggest contributing factor to that? I know that you're very, very particular about wording and messages and stuff when you put together these pieces of direct mail and marketing packages that you use for other investors. What do you think kind of sets you apart? Because I'm sure other people were out there doing kind of the same thing, but it seemed like you just skyrocketed.
Well, there are there's the big box people, and Michael Quarles, I'll give you a plug at yellowletters.com. I learned a lot about marketing from Michael Quarles.
Okay.
But when you use a big box like that, you go onto a website, you choose a template, and you run with it, and you never talk to anybody.
Sure.
So what we do is more boutique. I'm more like an outsourced marketing manager. I care about your goals, and I'm trying to achieve your goals for you. So you and I we get on the phone.
Absolutely.
And we talk about what you want to do and what your goals are.
What strategy we're trying to use, yeah.
So, and I don't force you to choose between templates. What I do is I custom write something for you and give you several choices of what might resonate with you more, and then we roll with that. Then I look at your responses from that and tweak.
Right.
Look at the responses from that, tweak. So it's kind of like working a Rubik's Cube. We're just testing and tweaking and turning the thing, and when all the colors line up, you get a deal.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I really love about using you and your services, not only your expertise and experience as a wholesaler and a marketing guy, but you are keeping a watchful eye on this, and you are going in there and checking on things and coming with good tips and tricks and best practices. And I see, okay, why aren't you doing this X, Y, Z? So that's something you're not going to get a lot with some of the big box guys and things like that as well. So you're doing that, and you're all across the nation now. It's not you're not just in Texas, because you're out of Fort Worth, correct?
Correct.
Funky Town, Fort Worth.
That's
so
right.
You guys are everywhere now.
We are, and it's all because of word of mouth. We don't do any marketing for the marketing. Everybody who's found me has found me through Bigger Pockets. So when I make somebody some money, they go back and leave me a reference, or they post in the forums, and then someone else finds me. And I'm still kind of particular. I don't work for just anybody. You know, I'm always going to get on a call with somebody first to figure out if this is something they should be. I've told plenty of people you don't need to be in real estate.
Yeah.
This is not for you.
Okay.
And it's
what would make you say that, though? I mean, if you're on the phone call, what is that thing that you're going, are you just hearing, I don't hear enough?
There's two things.
Willingness?
There's two things. There are two key skill sets to this. One, you need to be able to analyze a deal quickly. Okay. So you've got to know what a deal looks like. Even if you don't yet have access to good, solid comps, you've got to have a good idea of how to evaluate the deal. So mostly that's just math and numbers, and you can pretty much pick that up from anywhere.
Okay.
But you have to have a mind that can grasp it, because you've got to be able to analyze a deal quickly. You know that if you're not quick, someone else is going to buy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's that. And then the second thing is numbers and people, right? It's a people business, so you've got to be able to talk to people. And by talk, mostly I mean listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've got to have some good communication skills. And some people I get on the phone with, they're either dry as can be, or there's a serious language barrier.
Okay.
Or there's an insensitivity there. Or I talk to some people that have absolutely no empathy for the people that they're going to be working with.
Sure.
So if you're seeing people like a Mark,
Yeah, absolutely.
You're predatory. Yes, you should be able to make some money, but you make your money because you're helping somebody out of a bad situation.
I think that's sometimes people fail to realize that it is a service industry and you are helping people.
You gotta figure out a way to add in some value. You
gotta have a little empathy and help solve them problems.
Right, and no matter what the wholesale haters say, there are some things wholesalers can do that real estate agents can't.
Absolutely.
Just can't. Period. It's not because they don't want to. It's because they can't.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking with somebody, and I'll tell them all the time, if you've got one skill or the other, you'll do okay. If you've got both skills, you'll do pretty well.
Right.
If you've got neither of the skills, you should probably find something else to do.
So it's like if you don't have one of the two.
If you don't have either of them, then I can't, in good conscience, take your money.
Right. And I think that you're exactly right. The analytical portion of it can be taught. You can learn that day in and day out.
Yes.
Working with people, I don't know because I feel like I'm kind of a people's person, so to speak. But you, something I saw in your bio said you have an uncanny ability to read people too. So
I think that came from being a bartender.
Yeah, exactly. So that's cool. What would you say for a newbie getting started? I'm still kind of that newbie beginner stage, but I feel like when I go out, I have an opportunity and I squander it away sometimes because maybe I'm not reading somebody right or what would be a good tip that you would give somebody to say?
Well, the good news is there's nothing you can really screw up when you're talking to somebody.
That's true.
If you make a mistake, it's not written in stone until they sell that property to someone else.
Yeah.
Once that's happened, unless they have other properties, you're kind of done with them. But so there's been a lot of times where this will happen. I've done a deal, and then in the process of doing that deal or fixing whatever problem there was, a light bulb goes on, and I went, oh, now I see why I messed up that one back there.
Sure, okay.
So then I go back and I call them up and say, hey, can we start over? Can we have this conversation again? I don't feel like I handled that appropriately. Give me some grace. Will you be my hero today?
Right. I like that.
Well, if they say no, kind of makes them a social pariah, right?
Okay.
So here's a good tip for people, and you can read this in Negotiating 101. When you're doing the talking with somebody, when you're having a conversation, be the one asking the questions.
Okay.
The person who's asking the questions is the one who is in charge of the conversation.
Got you. Good tip.
So then this is what pulls people off script all the time is somebody will ask an unscripted question. The script is laid out for you to ask questions.
Sure.
So if they ask a question, it will pull people off, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Answer the question quickly, agree with them quickly, and then move right back into the script by asking them another question.
Sure.
That works, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would say so.
It can be anything. One of the best is, well, that's fair, isn't it?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great tip, man. I appreciate that for sure.
And then as soon as they agree with you and you get them to saying yes, then you go back to the next question in the script.
That's kind of what the podcast is about for me too, is just becoming a better active listener in those things too, because I'm kind of slow. I paint pictures when people talk. Yeah. So it like I'm seeing these things happen in my head, and sometimes I feel like maybe it's because I'm not fast enough, but at having a rebuttal or something like that. But I usually tend to have pretty good conversations with the people, and like I like the interaction of going out and talking to somebody on a deal. And so I'm not real scripted per se, but I definitely need to get better at just keep prying, keep asking questions. And
there's a couple of other things you can do, and these sound silly, and you can read them in any book, but they work. This is where I picked them up, and you do them, and they work. If you're going to spend a lot of time on the phone talking with people, get a mirror. Put you up a mirror somewhere, or turn your camera on your computer or something, and be aware of your facial expressions. If you smile, it's going to come out in your voice, and if you're it's going to come out in your voice if you're all frowned up.
That's true.
Another thing you can do if you feel like you're losing control of the conversation, stand up. stand up and move around. I know that sounds silly, but there's something psychological that happens.
There that triggers that.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely will keep that in mind. So we're kind of coming to a close, man. These things, they just go so fast.
I know
but
it.
I love the casual conversations,
Yeah.
you know, and I think you're a master at what you do. And I'm Team Jerry all the way, man. I
Well,
appreciate
thank you.
you coming in for sure, but I want to give you an opportunity to, you know, let folks know how to go find you and your
Sure.
marketing services and, you know, just get in contact with you.
Okay, well, if the easiest way to do it, if you're on Bigger Pockets, go to my profile, read through my profile so you can see how I work with people.
So still very active on the Bigger Pockets.
I am.
Okay, good.
I am. Read through a couple of the references and then reach out to me from there. You can go to my website at www.marketlikeawholesaler.com, and from there either fill out the 2-question contact form, or if you're ready, you can go ahead and order mail right from there, and I'm not going to send anything out until I've talked to you anyway.
There you go. We've already established that. Yep.
Right. Or you email me at jerry@newrefinedimages.com. I answer all emails, so don't be afraid.
You guys definitely go reach out and get in touch with Jerry. He can definitely help you make some money in the real estate investment business. And now we're going to go into the Real Estate IQ Rapid Fire.
And now, the clock is ticking.
It's really not
Real
that serious.
Estate IQ Rapid
Pop quiz.
Fire.
I told him to make it overly dramatic, so that's what I did there. So we'll get into the sports theme now. So best barbecue joint in Fort Worth.
Smokies in Funky Town, right off of Lancaster.
Okay, Smokies in Funky Town. Who is your favorite guitarist since you're the musician here?
Eric Clapton, hands down.
Eric Clapton, really. My
Sir.
dad was a guitarist too, by the way. So, didn't expect you to say Eric Clapton though, but that's very cool. Most important in business: relationships, your product or service, consistency, or passion.
All of the above. I
Okay.
can't pick one or the other.
I
They're
like
all
that.
equally important.
And you're also welcome to throw your own answer out there, not just my little limited list.
Follow up.
The follow
Follow-up.
Oh yeah, great. That's a great one. So, what is the single most overlooked item when people go out and look at a property? What do you feel like they overlook the most?
They overlook the fact that they are actually trying to help the person that they're talking to.
Love
They
that
don't.
answer.
They don't even pay attention to that.
I love that answer. Nothing to do with the house. Pay attention to the
It
person that
very
you're talking
rarely has anything to do with the house. It has to do with this person that needs the money now.
to. Absolutely. Do you make decisions with your head, heart, or gut?
Mostly my heart.
Okay.
Mostly
Jerry.
my heart.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in and being on the Ending Sucks podcast, man. It's been a blast.
Right. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Appreciate you.
See you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to the Ending Sucks podcast. We appreciate you lending us your ears. If you feel like you got some value out of this episode, please put somebody on it by liking, sharing, and engaging on social media. We love our listeners and hope that you'll grow right along with us. Always remember to pay it forward. Make friends. Make a difference. The end. The ending sucks.